So where had we stopped yesterday? Till 100, is it not? Ugro Vamshakaro Vamshaha. He is the flute player. In fact, there's a very interesting story that Saraswati and Rudra are actually brother and sister. Saraswati and Shiva, and it is actually Shiva who first played the Vamsha, the reed flute, and that is also because he represents vegetation and he represents especially so bamboo because you see bamboo is a tree which actually grows without the need for sexual reproduction, without flowers, without seeds. It actually just grows by itself through non sexual means, asexual means. And it's also it grows like an arrow and like a spear. Some would say it is like a trishula also. So he's many times associated with the bamboo. Vamsha, it's called. And of course, Rudra first played the flute. And the story goes in one of the folk tales that actually Krishna uh, was taught to play the flute from Shiva himself. Anyway, let's continue. Now, these are a set of very interesting, very easy verses. Let's quickly go over them. बन्धनो बन्धकर्ता च सुबन्धनविमोचनः स यज्ञारिः स कामारिर्महादंष्ट्रो महायुधः. Word here is kamarir. So please maybe mentally or physically put a comma after this word. Kamarir mahadamshtraha. And this is subandhana vimochanaha. Bandhano bandhakarta cha subandhana vimochanaha. Sayajñaris sa kamarir mahadamshtro mahayudhaha. बन्धनो बन्धकर्ता च सुबन्धन विमोचनः स यज्ञारिः स कामारिर्महादंष्ट्रो महायुधः. Bandhanah, one who binds us is called bandhanah. Yaha asman bandhayati, bandhanah. Bandhakarta, he who creates bondage, one who binds, for example, the Vishaya, the sense pleasures, and uh, the objects around us can be thought of as being the bandhana. And bandhakarta, he who, now see, for example, if a yogi walks into a room of, let's say a harem, he would not be perturbed, he or she. And that is because though the bandhana is there around him, though those shackles are there around him, he himself is not getting bound, he or she. So it requires Shiva again to put that desire within us to create that attachment. Bandhakarta. He is the Bandhakarta. Bandhano Bandhakarta. He is both the sense objects as well as that attachment towards the senses, which keeps us shackled. Bandhakarta cha Subandhana Vimochanaha. He is also the greatest Bandhana Vimochana, the releaser, the liberator from all bandhas, from all bondages, from all shackles, from all chains. He is the Subandhana Vimochanaha. And it can also be thought of as he being death, of course, frees us from all attachments naturally so. Subandhana Vimochanaha. Even if a person is unwilling to let go of his attachment, the death will definitely strip him away of all those. Subandhana Vimochanaha. Sa Yajñarihi. He is the Ari, the enemy of Yajñas. So he comes in the form of all demons also to destroy. And at other places we have seen he is the Yajna also. So one must not take away from this class that Shiva is actually a demon or is an evil man. It is not so. Shiva is God. And in each of these verses, all these pointers are used to negate our sense of a personal God. Yes, a personal God is important, but by putting in these paradoxical, antagonistic concepts, uh, the idea of this stotram, which was first told by Brahma himself, is to remove or free us from this strict morality, this strict black and white thinking, this strict good, bad, evil thinking. So it is to liberate us, because that is actually in a way it's a bondage in itself, because we always will try to classify people, label people as good, bad. This is a deva, this is a rakshasa, this is a yaksha, this is a manushya, this is a saint, this is a sinner, and so on and so forth. So for especially people who are stuck in this rigid mentality of morality, these pointers are thus demolishing those walls and thus freeing us from these concepts of morality. Not to say that one who reads and understands this will become an immoral person, but so this very famous saying of Rumi, right? He says, out beyond the notions of good and bad, there's a field. I shall meet you there. It's a very powerful, very magnificent saying, actually. So there is a field, and that field is itself Shiva. And so beyond good, bad, and evil, so beyond sattva, rajas, and tamas, it is Shiva. And so he is also the tamasic person. He is also the tamasic entities. So he is also the yajna ari. He is the one who is the enemy, or the uh, the one who obstructs the yajnas. He can also be thought of the one who destroyed the Daksha Yajna. So in that sense also he is a Yajnari. Saha Kamarihi. He is also the enemy, the one who killed or destroyed Kama. Kama is the Kama Deva, who is Manmatha himself, the lord of all desires, passions, and lust. It is Kama. And of course, the very famous story of when Parvati was doing tapasya, Manmatha uh, is delegated with the task of shaking Shiva from his tapasya. And though he is hesitant at first, he comes down with his friend Vasanta, and comes in a very beautiful chariot with the wind, Malaya Maruta. He comes with the wind, and then he has these five arrows of flower, different flowers and very fragrant flowers, and he shoots those arrows at Shiva. Though initially he resists, though initially Shiva also resists that temptation, finally he is so powerful that Shiva is woken up from his samadhi, and thus with a very fiery rage of his, as is very natural to Shiva, he burns down Kama itself from his third eye. It's a very Puranic story, but of course very metaphorical also. So the third eye represents the Ajna chakra, which is the chakra of wisdom, of dispassion, and of Vairagya. So thus, when Vairagya is awoken in a person, it naturally obliterates all passion and desires in a person. And if you also have noticed, this is very nicely told by Sadhguru, that this person whose Ajna chakra is activated, or basically a person who is very intellectual, for example, J. Krishnamurti, and all such recent people, and also, of course, Shankaracharya and others, who are very intellectually driven. Their energies are into such an extent that they can easily see through things, see through phenomena, see through the transactions of the world. For example, uh, he says this, that a child is playing with a toy, right? And he likes candies, he likes playing with toy. But as soon as he matures, there is some realization within him which comes and sees that this toy is just, for example, maybe the infant was very fascinated with how that puppy is, you give a key and it actually jumps. But once it learns that it is only I who is giving the key, and it is actually doing what just through a mechanism, the interest in playing with it is lost. Do you not see that? So similarly, when we even in not just in toys, toys are just pleasures of children, and we play with different things, with other different so-called toys of maturity. So we see cars. So we buy cars. We drive that luxurious car, and we see how what the pleasures it can offer are. So once you have seen through that, gradually the attachment and passion for it will reduce. And similarly is the case with people also. Once you are so attached to people in the first honeymoon phases of love, but once you actually start living together or get married and live with that person, you actually know him fully for his flaws, his good, bad, and the evil. And then slowly that love and attachment will vanish. Not vanish, but it will definitely diminish. So so the basically the point is that this Ajna chakra, which is in the dominant chakra, which is responsible for seeing through, quite literally, seeing through things, which is the eye of knowledge, the eye of wisdom, the eye of the intellect. So because Shiva had already reached that level, when he actually was able to see through things very clearly, the sense objects and why we actually get attached to sense objects and such, all these passions of his gradually, these temptations, gradually, you know, decimated themselves. So he is the Kamari. Mahadamshtraha. Mahadamshtraha is, and by the way, this is also the reason why sannyasis, because they are in a way for emulating Shiva, stick to brahmacharya. And it is not actually, it should not be forced brahmacharya, but a natural brahmacharya. So it is always that the ashrama dharma was designed in such a way that after having gone through life in the first three stages, brahmacharya, grihastha, and vanaprastha, you have seen through the pleasures of the world, all the pleasures and pains. And so gradual detachment and dispassion for it has arisen. And thus following brahmacharya at that later stage becomes very easy. But for good or the bad, for fortunately or unfortunately, nowadays, these sannyasis are very young. And so it becomes all the more important for them to conquer the natural urges within them. And it becomes very hard for them, and they try to suppress, is what I at least believe. They try to suppress it, but the more natural, the more easier way out, I believe at least, is when you have actually experienced it, or when you have at least seen through or logically understood things for what they really are. And that is a greater, natural, more organic way of diminishing karma. Mahadamshtraha. He is of fierce fangs. He has the fierce fangs. Damshtraha. Mahayudhaha. He has the greatest weapon, which is the Trishula. बन्धनो बन्धकर्ता च सुबन्धनविमोचनः स यज्ञारिः स कामारिर्महादंष्ट्रो महायुधः बहुधा निन्दितः शर्वः शङ्करः शङ्करो धनः अमरेशो महादेवो विश्वदेवः सुरारिहा. The word here is bahudha ninditaha. Bahudha ninditaha. Now that is one way to split it. The other way is bahudha aninditaha. Bahudha nindita sharvash shankarash shankaro naghaha. Amaresho Mahadevo Vishwadevas Surariha. Bahudha nindita sharvash shankarash shankaro dhanaha. Amaresho Mahadevo Vishwadevas Surariha. Bahudha Ninditaha. He is also the one who is immensely criticized. Nowadays, there's this news going on of this fellow called Ranveer Allahabadia, a very famous YouTuber and podcaster. So he has been facing the the backlash from almost all sections of society, right, left, center, spiritual, non-spiritual. Everybody is now attacking him. Uh, so he is also the one who is Bahudha Ninditaha. He is also these people who are immensely criticized, immensely critiqued and rebuked. In fact, there's also one other reason that The proverb goes, the tree with the greatest fruits gets the greatest stones. So ninda, which is insults, are like these stones hurled at a tree. And because Shiva has lot to give, lots of wisdom fruits, and I mean lots of power siddhis also to give, he is also bahudha ninditaha. He is also insulted in many ways. Of course, the most famous example by his own father-in-law, Daksha, who criticized him a lot and who hurled abuses at him, slander, I would say. And of course, it was the other Shiva himself came in as a as a brahmana to Parvati to test her bhakti, and he started rebuking and using the choicest words to bring down the stature of Shiva himself. So he is also the Bahudha Nindita Sharvaha. Sharva is one who is of a form of an arrow. Sharva is also an arrow. And that is the word from which Sharavana actually comes. So Subramanya is called Sharavana Bhava. And Shara means an arrow. Sharva also means one who carries or one who looks like or is as sharp as an arrow. Sharvaha. Sharavana means the forest of arrows, and that refers to this swampland where the trees, which are, if you have been in Bengal and Sundarbans, so these trees actually protrude their roots back into the atmosphere, into the air from under the water, and they look like very sharp uh, arrows. So he was actually born, I mean, he was carried through that vana. And so he's called Sharavana Bhava. Bhava means one who is born in it. And Sharva is refers to Shiva himself because he is as sharp, all intellectually, physically, and emotionally, like an arrow. Shankaraha, of course, he is the greatest well-doer, well-wisher of all of us. Shankara and Shankara. So this is again used for emphasis. Whenever things repeat in Samskritam, right? Think of it to be a pointer for emphasis. Shankara, Shankaraha. And the second Shankara probably can also refer to this particular specific Rudra amongst the 11 Rudras who is called Shankara. In the Bhagavad Gita, uh, Krishna says, Rudranam Shankaraha. Rudranam Shankaraschasmi Vittesho Yaksha Rakshasa. Rudranam, of the 11 Rudras, he is the form of Shankara, who is the most gentle, most, um, you know, uh, peaceful, most chivalrous person. Shankaraha. Adhanaha, he has no dhana. There's this very famous story of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa having a very particularly strong aversion to money. So whenever he would even by mistake touch money, these paisas and rupees, he would jump out. And so sometime just for fun, these disciples tried to keep without his knowledge some paisa under his pillow. And that entire night he didn't sleep well, and he immediately knew that something was wrong. And he took out the pillow and he actually saw that there was money there. Uh, so he is adhana because he has, first of all, no money because he is a Vairagi and he likes to keep no money with him. Secondly, so the word dhana comes from dhan, the dhatu dhan, which means to sustain, something which sustains. You see, wealth sustains, it goes cyclical. The entire economics is a very cyclical concept. So there is a producer, then there is a consumer, then there is a reuser. So one who reuses it and then who puts it back into the system. So this is a cycle. Dhana, all money is a cycle. And he, especially Shiva, hates cycles. He is Sharva. He is like an arrow. He always goes away tangentially from any circles. From the birth-death cycle, from samsara cycle, from money cycle, all of that he is very far away from. So he is adhanaha. And he also has no requirement for money because, of course, he is very fulfilled in himself. Amareshah. Amareshah is one who is the lord of the Amaras, of the Devas. Mahadevah, again, the greatest amongst the Devas. Vishwadevaha, he is that supreme deity like Virat, which we discussed yesterday, who represents the Deva, the Lord, uh, embodying the world, the Vishwa. So Vishwadevaha, Surariha, Sura, the Devas, Ari, enemy, Ha, one who kills. One who kills the enemies of the Devas. Suranam Arihi Arin Hanti, one who kills the enemies of the Devas. Of course, because we have seen he has killed many demons like Apasmara, um, Gajasura, Antakasura, Jalandhara, who else? Bhasmasura in a way, and Vyaghrapada, and the Tripuras, and so on and so forth. So he has destroyed the enemies of the Devas, thus bringing back Dharma Samsthapana by doing Dushta Shikshana and Shishta Rakshana. बहुधा निन्दितः सर्वः शङ्करः शङ्करो धनः अमरेशो महादेवो विश्वदेवः सुरारिः अहिर्बुध्न्यो नीलाभश्च चेकितानो हविस्तथा अजैकपाच्च कापाली त्रिशङ्कुरजितः शिवः. Carefully. Ahirbudhnyo nilabhash chekitano havistatha ajaikapach chakapali trishanku rajita shivaha. Ahirbudhnyo nilabhash chekitano हविस्तथा अजैकपाच्चकापाली त्रिशङ्कुरजितः शिवः अहिर्बुध्न्यो नीलाभश्च चेकितानो हविस्तथा अजैकपाच्चकापाली त्रिशङ्कुरजितः शिवः. Ahirbudhniya. This is a very Vedic phrase. Ahirbudhniya refers to Shiva, Rudra himself, but in his form of the nether serpent. Budhniya means nether, which is below. So that snake, the snake, Ahi means a snake or a dragon. So the lowest dragon, the dragon which resides in the lowest realms, is called Ahirbudhniya, and that is Shiva himself. You see, the Patala is inhabited by these Nagas, all these serpents. And Ananta is said to be the lord of the Patala, according to the Puranas, whereas the Vedas actually say Ahir Budhniya is that lord of the Patala. And this refers to Rudra himself. Ahir Budhniya. Anilabha cha. Anilabha. Anila means Vayu, that which doesn't stop. Anilaha. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಿಲ್ಲತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ನಿಲ್ಲತ್ತೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಲ್ಲದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ to stop. Anilaha, that which does not stop, which keeps blowing. Anilaha. Anilabha, one who is of the form of Anila, one who is of the form of Vayu, of wind, of breeze, of movement. Anilabha cha. Chekitanaha. Chekitanaha means one who is very conscious, very like the supremely conscious. Chekitanaha. It also refers to a person who is immensely externally aware of his surroundings. For like a lion or a tiger, which is so accurately aware of its surroundings that even a small movement in the bushes will be recognized by this and will be in the field of knowledge of the tiger. So similarly, he is Chekitanaha, very precisely aware of the surroundings, and that is actually a very important skill, you see, um, to not just be aware of himself internally in his dhyana, but also aware of the surroundings and aptly aware. It's not just that I am looking at the TV and then reading something else and hearing something else. The senses may be outward, but to be aware through all the five senses very strongly requires a lot of practice too. And this is also another form of meditation. It's called open eye meditation. You see, when we are at the top of a hill or in a dense forest, or we're just sitting on a rock, even without our eyes shut, even if we are constantly, if we have kept our eyes open, to be able to hear the sound of these birds, the small, whiffering of the ants and the small trickling of the streams nearby, to be aware of all of these at the same time is to be truly aware, and which is as good as meditation in itself. He is that Chekitanaha. Havis Tatha. Havihi is oblations, is offering made in the yajna. Havihi is also that. Tatha also. Aja Ekapat, Ajaikapat. Again, another Vedic name. Ajaikapat refers to him who is Aja, one who is unborn, one who has no birth or death. Aja. Ekapath, one who stands on a single foot, is called Ekapath. I'll be sharing a very nice image of Shiva in his Ekapath form on the group. Ekapath means one who stands on one leg. And that actually again refers back to that Purusha Suktam where which says, let me just recollect that verse. Uh, त्रिपादूर्ध्व उदयित् पुरुषः पादोऽस्येहा भवात् पुनः ततो विश्वं व्यक्रामत् शासनानशने अभि. It says the Purusha, the Supreme Being, he so he had four legs, four limbs, and one of the limbs he put down, and that created the universe, whereas the other three legs he kept it up, and they became the akash, they became the heavens, and they remained in concealment, they remained in enigma, and they remained in without the without, I mean, beyond the purview of all the devas. So they're not actually technically heavens also. So these three legs of Shiva represent the three aspects, the three-fourth of God, which is transient, which is very transcendent, sorry, transcendent, whereas that one leg is immanent. So God is said to be both transcendent and immanent, which means he is that, like if you remember that example, a painter is painting his own portrait and creating other stuff also in the portrait. So the artist is both away from the painting, he is separate from the painting, as well as a part of the painting. Is it not? So God, in that sense, one-fourth of his tattva became the cosmos, whereas the three-fourths still remained unknown and in the greatest of mysteries, only known to Brahma, I mean, known into the Purusha himself. So that is Ekapad. Aja Ekapad. Kapali. Kapali is one who carries these skulls. And Trishankuhu. Trishanku is that very famous king who wanted to go to Swarga with his body, physical body intact. And that it could refer to him because he did, I mean, he represents that ambition which goes against nature. Trishanku is that symbol, that character used to represent all unnatural or against natural wishes or ambitions. Trishanku. So that is also Rudra. It also refers to another sage called Trishanku, who actually comes in the Taittiriya Upanishad. who composed a very famous mantra which says, Aham vrikshasya reriva kirtif prishthang gireriva urdhva pavitro vachini vasvamritamasmi dravinagum savarchasam sumedha amritokshitah iti Trishankorvedanu So that mantra, this mantra which I just chanted, was penned by Trishanku Rishi, who gave this very famous pre-Vedantic declaration of this Aham Brahmasmi Tattva. So it says, Aham Vrikshasya Reriva, I am the root of this tree. And he refers to this tree, this samsara as a tree. Kirtif Prishthan Gireriva, I am that Prishtha, I am beyond the Kirti, all that you see which has been scattered here. Urdhva Pavitraha, I am uh, the most subtlest, supreme Pavitra, holiest entity, Urdhva Pavitraha, Vajiniva, like the sun in the sky, I am at the zenith of all enlightenment. And this is a very great roar, you see, roar of enlightenment, it is called. And it seems a little arrogant at first, but it's in line with that ecstasy. For example, when I am very happy, right, I always tend to, uh, I have no hesitation or modesty in trying to conceal my happiness. I just say it is not that it is out of pride or out of arrogance, but I am very happy. I spread that joy everywhere. So that exclamation of joy and supreme ecstasy is what Trishanku, the Rishi, did in those verses. Maybe I'll share that verse also. It's a very good, it makes for a very good read. Uh, Trishanku Ajitaha Shivaha. He is that who is unconquered, Ajitaha, and Shivaha. He is Shiva itself. It requires no explanation. Shiva is Shiva, is a proper noun. It also means one who is very auspicious. You say Satyam Shivam Sundaram. That which is the truth is also auspicious, is also beauty. It's also the beatitude itself. Just a minute. Very sorry. Kindly excuse me for the disturbance. So let me come back here. Yeah, he is Satyam Shivam Sundaram. So he is that which is beautiful, that which is the truth, and that which is very auspicious, Shivaha. Ahirbuddhnyo nilabhascha chekitano havistatha ajaikapacha kapali trishankurajita Shivaha. धन्वन्तरिर्धूमकेतुस्कन्दो वैश्रवणस्तथा धाता शक्रश्च विष्णुश्च मित्र क्षम्यताम् धाता शक्रश्च विष्णुश्च मित्रस्त्वष्टा ध्रुवो धरः धन्वन्तरिर्धूमकेतुः स्कन्दो वैश्रवणस्तथा धाता शक्रश्च विष्णुश्च मित्रस्त्वष्टा ध्रुवो धरः धन्वन्तरिर्धूमकेतुः स्कन्दो वैश्रवणस्तथा धाता शक्रश्च विष्णुश्च मित्रस्त्वष्टा ध्रुवो धरः. This shloka is just enumerating all the Vedic gods and equating them with Shiva. Dhanvantarihi, the god of medicine, also the one who was born from the Samudra Manthana, uh, who carried the Amrita with him. Dhanvantarihi, also by the way, the patron lord of the Ayurveda is called Dhanvantari. Dhanvantari Trayodashi is actually that Dhanteras, which is celebrated before Deepavali. Dhanvantari Dhumaketu. So it actually was a festival of for great health before great wealth came, which was before Lakshmi actually came. It was Dhanvantari, that is health, which was celebrated, and then wealth. Dhanvantari, but nowadays it has Dhanteras has become about Dhan. It was actually Dhanvantari. Dhumaketuhu. Dhumaketu is that comet which strides across the sky. Uh, like I think I've explained this. Ketu means a flag. So if you look at the sky or look at the pictures of a comet, it is like a flag which is swirling in the sky, and that's flag of material of dust and water vapor and rocks which is flying out in the sky, which is swirling, and it is heated by the sun. So he is Dhumaketuhu. He is that cosmic phenomenon. Skandaha is Subramanya, the son of Shiva. Kartikeya, as he is referred to in the north. Muruga, as he is referred to in the south. Skandaha. Vaishravanaha tatha. He is also Kubera. Vaishravana refers to Kubera. Then Dhata is Brahma, the creator Brahma. Shakra is Indra. Vishnu is Vishnu himself. Mitra is the sun. Twashta is the sculptor, which in the Puranic times came to be referred to Vishwakarma. But Twashta is the Vedic name. Twashta and Dhruva, he is that Dhruva Nakshatra, the pole star, the North Star, and Dharaha. Dharaha is mountains. He is also the mountains. धन्वन्तरिर्धूमकेतुस्कन्दो वैश्रवणस्तथा धाता शक्रश्च विष्णुश्च मित्रस्त्वष्टा ध्रुवोधरः प्रभावः सर्वगो वायुरर्यमा सविता रविः उषङ्गुश्च विधाता च मान्धाता भूतभावनः प्रभावः सर्वगो वायुरर्यमा सविता रविः उषङ्गुश्च विधाता च मान्धाता भूतभावनः प्रभावः प्रभावः सर्वगो वायुरर्यमा सविता रविः उषङ्गुश्च विधाता च मान्धाता भूतभावनः. He is Prabhava. He is an influence. It also refers to creation. Prabhava means also creation. So he is the creation itself. Sarvagaha, he who traverses everywhere. Sarvagaha, one who traverses at all places, basically omnipresent. Prabhava Sarvago Vayuhu, he is wind. Aryama, Aryama is another deity in the Vedas who is in charge of the Pitrus. Aryama is the kind of a brother or a colleague of Yama. Aryama and Savita. Savita is Surya. one who creates, one who, so it technically comes from the dhatu su, which means prasava. You say prasava, right? Prasava vedana, which means labor, to deliver. Savitru means one who actually, literally, one who does this delivery, who is in labor. Savita. So that is because sun is visualized as being the father of this solar system. So one who gave birth to all these planets. So he is called Savitra or Savita. Ravihi again refers to Surya. Ushangu, I will get back to you about this. I am not sure. It may refer to the divine cow, the Kamadhenu, but let me just get back to you on this. Vidhata is the fate writer. So there's this god like Brahma. So in Puranas it became Brahma, but there is the Vidhata, one who sets things in motion, one who designs things, writes fate. That is Vidhata. Uh, so it also refers to the concept of destiny itself being written by Shiva, because he writes the death of a person. He determines the fate of a person. He is Vidhata. And Mandhata. Mandhata refers to a very pious man, a very holy man. Mandhatri means a very holy man. He is also the Bhuta Bhavanaha, one who is the enlivener of all creatures, one who is that essence of livingness in all creatures. He is the Bhuta Bhavanaha. प्रभावः सर्वगो वायुरर्यमा सविता रविः उषङ्गुश्च विधाता च मान्धाता भूतभावनः. विभुर्वर्णविभावी च सर्वकामगुणावहः पद्मनाभो महागर्भश्चन्द्रवक्त्रो नीलो नलः. विभुर्वर्णविभावी च सर्वकामगुणावहः पद्मनाभो महागर्भश्चन्द्रवक्त्रो नीलो नलः. विभुर्वर्णविभावी च सर्वकामगुणावहः पद्मनाभो महागर्भश्चन्द्रवक्त्रो नीलो नलः. This word is Mahagarbhash Chandravaktro Nilo Nalaha. Vibhur Varna Vibhavi Cha Sarva Kama Gunavaha Padmanabho Maha Garbhash Chandravaktro Nilo Nalaha. Vibhu is the Supreme Lord, Vibhu, and Varna Vibhavi, one who mm, came up or conceptualized the idea of Varnas. The Varnas refers to the Chatur Varnyam of the four Varna system of the society, the sections of society. Varna Vibhavi, one who brought the idea of Varna. And so you cannot, I mean, any blame must therefore be directed towards Shiva. But in all seriousness, we can say he is the Varna Vibhavi because any society always runs on distinctions, on divisions. No one person can do all things, right? And even in a tribe, there is a hierarchy. Even in a tribe, there is a division of labor. So we call them hunter gatherer. So now if you actually look at it carefully, the hunter was the male and the gatherer was the female. The females, because they were not as biologically fit, as the males and agile, they were given, or maybe they themselves picked up the role of doing the gathering, of picking nuts and fruits and leaves, providing for the family in non-hunting means, these medicines and such. And the hunters were the males. And So even in a archaic concept of a tribe itself, there is this division of labor. And of course, in a tribe, the males always ran supreme because they brought the food to the table, so-called food, because biologically they were with an advantage. So they were able to hunt and mm, uh, supply food to they were the annadatas of that tribe. So they were, of course, respected, and they also had more power. And it is not just in tribes, even in animals, there is this concept of a pride and of the alpha. The alpha would dominate. And there are these various classes where the old and aged members of a tribe, I mean, of a pride, these creatures would be kept aside. They would be just looked down upon, and the cubs were in the custody of the mother, or the mother lion and such. There is always, and has always, and there will always be this division of labor. And thus, there is also this perceived importance of a certain role. So you see, even when we watch cinema, what is the first thing that we see in the credit scene? It is the director, it is the producer, and then who it starring by all these Amitabh Bachchan, that, this, and other. Why is the cameraman not as important to this cinema, to that movie, as this actor is? Of course, both of them are working. They are also putting, in fact, this sometimes cameraman may put in more hours. He is also equally skilled, but his mention comes somewhere in fine line, fine prints. So even though we may not admit to there being a caste in the in the cinema team, there still is a hierarchy, and there still is a perceived importance of certain roles over others. And thus, and that here the Sotram refers to Shiva itself as being that creator, this mischief doer, for bringing this perceived importance of certain roles. And of course, because of the division of labor, because no one person can do everything. And so, because of this, those who took on a role of more subtlety, of more maturity, requiring more uh, inclusion, tended to be more higher up in the ladder. Though it was actually meant as a no, in an ideal world, it would just be division of labor, where like a communist state, even the king is paid the same salary as the sewage worker. That would be a communist ideal world. But we are not living in one such, and neither is it natural in the natural world also. Let me just bring my charger and plug it in. Just 1 second. Yeah, as I was saying, Varna Vibhavi, yes, he is that person who instigated the division of labor. And in the same line, in fact, even Sri Krishna says, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam. I have created the Chaturvarnya. So any blame of these, so by these revolutionaries must go to these two people. Anyway, he is that Supreme Lord who created this division in all living creatures. Mm, I mean, why living creatures? Even if you think of the planets themselves, uh, there is these 9 planets, I mean, 8 planets, right? And the first 4 planets are called the rocky planets. They're closer to sun. And the other 4 are the gas giants. very massive, and they're in the second segment of the solar orbit. And then there's this Kepler planets, the Kepler's orbit, where mm, all these exoplanets and unimportant are cast to the edge of the solar system. Even in astronomy, it is quite funny because the first four planets are the most studied, and they were sending shuttles there. And while the other four are very hard to understand and they are not as, I mean, not as important, while the Kepler bodies, though, are uh, very far or very rare to be actually even researched about. So in all of creation, there is this inherent division and distinction. If you remember, there was this other Nama which said he is the Bhagakaraha, one who creates divisions, and he is the Bhagi, one who is of the form of divisions. So he is that. Sure. Yeah, I was saying, depending on the role, the perceived importance of the role, there was this hierarchy, which soon became more and more rigid. Mm, so Swami Chinmayananda again explains this well. So the lowest form of intelligence is to use the body. So they were called the Shudras, those who used the body. And so their inclusion level or capacity was just to themselves. And soon the intelligence matured a little and they started trading. They started trading and uh, using the other person to benefit not just me, but also my little family around me. So they were called the Vaishyas. And when the intelligence matured a little more to have a sense of inclusion of an entire community, or let's say a state or a colony or of a layout and such, they became the leaders. And so they became the Kshatriyas. And when the sense of inclusion and intelligence grew to such an extent that it was not just limited to a nation or of a town, a village, etc., and but it included the entire, it included everything. So anybody who came to him or her, they felt him to be a part of themselves. So they were called the Brahmanas. So technically speaking, those even today who have this sense of very spiritual inclusion, all inclusion and globalist mindset, they can be called the Brahmanas. Those who are leaders of certain domains, certain communities, certain organizations, Kshatriyas. Those who are just involved in some trading, starting enterprises and exchange of goods and services and looking after their limited family are called Vaishyas. And those who are completely selfish, I mean, not that it is wrong, but those who are selfish and they just care for themselves using physical means, they are called the Shudras. It is not by birth, it was not meant to be by birth. It was just a varna, which means something which is like a color, something which has a mix of red, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of blue, so a little bit of tamas, some of rajas, small streaks, and here, mm, sprinkling of satvika rasa and such. It was meant to be that. And varna also referred to a profession because you were choosing it. Varna, vrunoti iti varnaha, that which is chosen. So, what Shiva meant and what Krishna meant was not a birth based, but a profession, but they're guna based by their own volition. They would choose at different stages of life. Maybe I was able to change my varnas. And accordingly, the rules were made. See, for example, if I became a Vaishya at 60, I would be considered a Vaishya and therefore governed by those particular rules of society which were targeted for Vaishyas, so on and so forth. So, for example, maybe uh, a person who is handicapped or he is restricted to a chair, and so he cannot really contribute much to society, so he would be technically called a Shudra in this sense. Though he may have been born to a Brahmana father, he would be considered Shudra because he is not contributing anything to society except his own well-being, physical well-being. But if the same person actually, though he was physically handicapped, went on to maybe achieve something in life and do something to his entire community, he will be called a Kshatriya. Do you understand? So this is the idea of Varnas as enunciated and as was intended. Of course, as human nature takes on, hierarchy comes in and hierarchy becomes more rigid and rigid, and toxicity comes in and it becomes more discriminatory. But we can remove away with discrimination, but we can never remove away with division of labor, because that, in a way, is created by Shiva himself, and because it is a natural thing to exist in all living creatures. Sarva Kama Gunavahaha. He is of the form of all kamas, all desires, and all gunas. He is known by all desires. He is also known by all gunas. So, what are the gunas? Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. And all kamas, because they ultimately all point to only Shiva, that Ananda Tattva, which is Shiva. Padmanabha, he is the form of Brahma because he is the form of Vishnu because the lotus came from his navel, so he is also Vishnu. Mahagarbha, he is the form of Brahma because he is referred to as the great zygote or the great embryo, Mahagarbha. Chandra Vaktraha, he has now it has two meanings. One is his face itself is very beautiful like the moon, very white and very glistening like the moon. And secondly, it refers to Chandra being in his mukha. He has Chandra in his forehead, in his jata. So he is Chandra Vaktraha. This is the word is Vaktra, okay? Vaktro, Vaktro, Chandra Vaktro. Anilaha Vayu, Analaha Agni. He is fire, he is wind, he has a face of Chandra, of the moon, as beautiful as the moon. Maybe we can stop here and Pushparya can continue with her class. Let's do some chanting. Who will like to volunteer of yesterday's and today's? Yes, Savita madam. Which shloka do you want? Okay. Hmm. Please go on. A little loud, please.
आवाचा देवाधिपतिरेव च अर्थवाशिर्समा सामस्य
Atharva
अथर्वशीर्ष सामस्य वृक्षसहस्रमिते क्षणः यजुःपादभुजो गुह्यः प्रकाशो जङ्गमस्तथा अमोघार्थः प्रसादश्च अभिगम्य सुदर्शनः उपकारः प्रियः सर्वः कनकः काञ्चनच्छविः नाभिर्नन्दिकरो भावः पुष्करस्थापितस्थिरः द्वादशास्त्रासनश्चाद्यो यज्ञो यज्ञसमाहितः नक्तं कलिश्च कालश्च मकरः कालपूजितः सगणो गणकारश्च भूतवाहनसारथिः भस्मशायो भस्मगोप्ता भस्मभूतस्तरुर्गणः लोकपालस्तथा आलोको महात्मा सर्वपूजितः शुक्लस्त्रिशूलशुक्लस् सम्पन्नः शुचिर्भूत निषेवितः आश्रमस्थः प्रिया वस्थो विश्वकर्मा मतिर्वरः विशालशाखास्ताम्रश्को यां भुजालः सुनिश्चलः कपिलः कपिशा कपिलः कपिशा शुक्ल आयुष आयुश्चैव परो परः गन्धर्वो ह्यदिति तार्क्षस् सुविज्ञेयः सुशारदः परश्वाध्यायुधो देवा अनुकारी सुपन्थवः तं तुम्बवीणो महाक्रोध उद्धरेता जलेशयः प्रो वंशकरो वंशो वंशनादो ह्यनिन्दितः सर्वाङ्गरूपो मायावी श्रुतो अनिलो नलः बन्धनो बन्धकर्ता च सुबन्धनि विमोचनः सकामारिर्महान् सयज्ञारिस्सकामारिर् सयज्ञारिस्सकामारिर्महादंष्ट्रो महायुधः बहुधा
but thank you, Alam. Thank you. It was very nice. Again, one of the most precisely pronounced recitations. Very nice. Yes, Indira ma'am, would you like to chant a few verses? Indira Arye?
शङ्करोधनः अमरेशो महादेवो विश्वदेव सुरारिहा
Surely. Ahir Budhnyo Nilabhascha Chekitano
जैकपाचकापाली दिशङ्कुर जितशिवः
Just a minute.
धन्वन्तरि धूमकेतु स्कन्दो वैश्रवणस्तथा माता शाक्रश्च विष्णुश्च मित्रस्पष्टा ध्रुवोदरः प्रभावः सर्वगो वायुर्वितारविः पुष्च विधाता च दाता भूतभावनः
Just a minute.
विभुर्वर्णविभावी च सर्वकामगुणावहः पद्मनाभो महागर्भश्चन्द्रवक्त्रो नीलोदरः
Chandravaktro. Very nice. Atyuttamam. Usha ma'am, Usha Arye, would you like to chant? No, we have not discussed this yet. So you can pick anything from before. From, if you would like to chant that, okay. 100. So 102 is what we discussed today.
Yes.
Can you try? Have you read the Shiva Sahasranam before?
This is first time.
First time. Okay. Can you try yesterday's? Yesterday or day before yesterday's? Were you there in the class? Okay. 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 No worries. Can you try this? 70 from here. 784 onwards. Swastida.
स्वस्तिदः स्वस्ति भावश्च भागी भागकरो लघुः उत्सङ्गश्च महाङ्गश्च महागर्भपरायणः कृष्णवर्णः सुवर्णश्च इन्द्रियं सर्वदेहिनां महापादो महाहस्तो महाकायो महायशाः महामूर्ता महामात्रो महानेत्रो निशालयः महान्तको महाकर्णो महोष्टश्च महाहनुः महानासो महाकम्बुर्महाग्रीवः श्मशानभाग महावक्षा महोरस्को यन्तरात्मा मृगालयः लम्बनो लम्बितोष्टश्च महामायपयोनिधिः महादन्तो महादंष्ट्रो महाजिह्वो महामुखः महानखो महारोमा महाकेशो महाजटः प्रसन्नश्च प्रसादश्च प्रत्ययो गिरिसाधनः स्नेहनश्चैव अजितश्च महामुनिः वृक्षाकारो वृक्षकेतुरनलो वायुवाहनः
Astu, samyak, samyak. Thank you. Bhagavatam. Hoysala Bharatiya. Would you like to chant?
That's another idea of mine.
Oh, okay.
Just, my son has joined from the other
Okay, okay, okay. Mrs. Bhagyamma, ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ? ಇದರ ಶ್ಲೋಕಗಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ ಭಾಗ್ಯಮ್ಮ ಅವರೇ? Okay. Bhavani ma'am, yeah, would you like to chant a few? Now, since you have been one of our pioneers, you should actually be able to chant the previous ones also. So let's see. Okay, okay, you want to chant from there? All right.
still be available.
I would like you to try the 70 onwards, if you don't mind. Okay, let's say from 60 to 70. Just a minute.
You start from 60,
Yeah,
60.
60.
Okay.
This one. Vimochana Susarano.
सुसरणो हिरण्य कवचोद्भवः नेत्रजो बलचारी च महीचारी स्तुतस्तथा सर्वतूर्य निनादी च सर्वा तुद्य परिग्रह व्यालरूपो गुहावासी गुहोमाली तरंगविद त्रिदशस्त्री काल त्रिदशस्त्री काल त्रिकर्म सर्वबन्ध विमोचनः बन्धन बन्धनस्त्व सुरेन्द्राणां शत्रुविनाशनः साङ्ख्यप्रसादो दुर्वासा सर्वसाधु निषेवितः प्रस्कन्दनो विभाग विभागज्ञो अतुल्यो यज्ञभागवित् सर्ववास सर्वचारी दुर्वासा वास्तवोमरः हैमो हेमकरो यज्ञः सर्वधारी धरुत्तमः लोहिताक्षो महाक्षश्च लोहिताक्षो महाक्षश्च विजयाक्षो विशारदः संग्रहो निग्रहः कर्ता सर्पचीर निवासनः मुख्यो मुख्यश्च देहश्च काहली सर्वकामदः सर्वकासप्रसादश्च सुबलो बलरूपधृत् सर्वकामावरश्चैव सर्वतः सर्वतोमुखः आकाश निर्विरूपश्च निपाति ह्यवशः खगः रौद्ररूपो शुरादित्यो रशिमः सुवर्चसि वसुवेगो महावेगो मनोवेगो निशाचरः सर्ववासी श्रियावासी उपदेशकरोकरः मुनिरात्मानिरालोकः संभग्नश्च सहस्रदः पक्षी च पक्षिरूपश्च अतिदीप्तो विशाम्पतिः उन्मदो मदनः कामो यश्वरोर्धकरो यशः
That's sufficient. Thank you so much. It was really nice, very nice, and there's a lot of improvement from the first day. I think you have been practicing well, ma'am. That's very nice, very heartening.
Okay, thank you.
Astu, any questions, any inputs you guys want to give? Please feel free. Anything you want to add? Any comment? Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. Yeah, Usha, ma'am.
Yeah. 102, sloka number 102.
Hmm. Today, your friend hasn't come today, huh? Mrs. Sambun.
She's in a different time zone.
Okay, okay.
So she I think she would have been up and updating the patient's details.
Okay.
102. First word. Uhuta ninditaha.
Hmm.
Is it, should it be taken if other Vibhajan and we do it? Would it be like Uhuta anindita? It's not blamed at all. Should we take it that way?
It is definitely possible, and that is why one of the tricks in Samskritam is to put the two words together. If they were separately, we could have actually said no, because it's just Bahudha and Ninditaha. But because they have put it together like a samasa, you can interpret it in both ways. Either Bahudha aninditaha or Bahudha nindita because of the Savarna Dirgha Sandhi. That's correct. You can also say he is unmatched, unquestionably true in his characters, therefore unblameable in any sort. Correct.
Yeah, if we go for a writer side, he cannot be blamed at all because it's all like he's the Srishti and whatever has been done, it's because of the Jivatma or Jivi.
Correct.
So he cannot be blamed.
True,
Okay,
true.
if I look into the other part, like Bahuda is a Strilinga,
Ah.
so it is Akaranta.
Hmm.
Akaranta plus A goes, then it's Savarna Deva, both A plus A is again Akaranta.
Correct. That's true. Correct.
Yeah. Surariha.
Surariha means one who kills the enemies of the Suras. Sura, please go on.
So it means that like he fought and killed the demons, right?
Correct.
Rakshasa, Daityas and stuff.
Correct, correct.
But if you take in the prasanga of Mahabharata, then Shiva had to fight on the side of Banasura. So also we can see that he was the most of the time Rakshasa and Daitya, they do finance and get the boons from him. So how he is Surarihai certain conditions.
Correct. So yeah, that is true. For example, in the case of Bhasmasura and Banasura, it was Shiva himself who did give boons. But it is also, I mean, I don't know the exact answer, but Shiva in his personal form, that is, as Shiva, the Puranic character, yes, he has given boons to on both sides, and that only shows, and it's a very frequent question, frequently asked question, and that is, it only goes to show how he is unbiased, because he, as a father, his sons may a few sons may be good, a few daughters may be good, a few daughters may be bad, a few sons may be bad, and so on. But if they have done that thing which is told to be done, for example, the sadhana, if they say the sadhana has to be done for 48 days or 48 years or 48,000 years, whatever be the case, and if they have done it so rightfully, he is pleased. So in that sense, he is Ashutosha. So he gets pleased very easily because he's very methodical. Whoever you are, he doesn't care. If you have done what is required, he will come before us and give us the boon. So yes, in that sense, he did give boons to the Rakshasas. And so in that sense, he is not Surariha, that's true. But he also killed the other Asuras, like I just said, Bhasmasura, Gajasura, Vyaghrapada, Apasmara, and others, where he did kill the demons who were fighting against the Devas.
Yeah. 105.
105, okay.
The word Ushangu, I just have to Google it. It says Ushangu is a Hindu boy's name, and rather the means Lord Shiva, rather than Lord and Bhagwan Shiva, or one who gets up at dawn.
Oh, Ushamgu. Ah, I see. I see. Pullinga, correct. Usha is morning, dawn. Correct, correct. Okay, okay.
Ushangu is the one who gets up at dawn.
At dawn, I see. Very interesting. So maybe it means he he comes up in these in the dawn as a sign of brightness and hope. So he gets up and he comes as the torchbearer of hope and light. Yeah.
If you see the entire verse, it's something about Prabhavaha, Sarvago, and also Savita Ravihi, so it is related words only appearing in this.
Nice, nice. Yeah, that's actually interesting. Thank you for that.
Learning about it. Appreciate it. 206.
106, is it?
206. Oh, sorry, 106. Sorry. Varna Vibhavari. Varna, as you clearly mentioned it rightly, that the division has to be there so that there's no competition and deprive of one particular service in the
Correct.
society or in the system. So each Varna is important. As I give credit to one of my uncle who tried to teach us Purusha Sutta in a proper way, that there is a one stanza coming. Brahmanosya mukhamasi bahu rajanya krutaha tarasya yadvaishya padyango padya Shudro Ajayata.
Hmm.
Any one of these angas are not there, then the person is like he's definitely a apanga.
Correct. Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, it's very significant. Correct. And so yes, you're right. So every role is important to make the movie happen. Correct.
Yeah, one more reference to this like to share. It was in Mahabharata when both Yuvarajas were to be chosen, either Duryodhana or Yudhishthira. There was a test conducted because of Vidura's existing. Like all the four Varnas take the same kind of ganda, so crime rather. So they were told to be punished, and Duryodhana told punish them equally. But Yudhishthira says no, give them different grades of punishments,
Hmm.
lesser to Shudra and more, I mean, extreme to Brahmana, because more the responsibility, like more the power, more responsibility. So they have to bear the more brunt of it.
Absolutely. This is so beautiful. Correct. And in line with that, in fact, all of these Ashvalayana and the Apastambha Sutras lay a lot of restriction on the Brahmana, Vaishya, and the I'm sorry, Kshatriyas. I mean, in decreasing order of, so Brahmanas are the most restricted in terms of what to do, what they can do, what they cannot do, who to take as a wife, who to not to take as a spouse, etc. Yes, Kshatriyas are less so, Vaishyas are even lesser restricted, and Shudras, there are very few restrictions. You're absolutely right. And so the greater
Yeah.
power they enjoy, greater their responsibilities. Absolutely. This is beautiful. I just wish that that rule was applicable in today's Indian society. You see all these politicians getting away with crime so easily. Whereas we, the lay person, middle class, and we are facing the brunt in from all directions.
That the onus goes to Praja only because it's a Praja Rajya. We choose the Raja, so is the Raja. It's sort of Yatha Raja Tata Praja. Now it is Yatha Praja Tata.
So, yes, true.
Dhanyawada.
Dhanyawad. Any other questions by anybody else? Any inputs? Please feel free to share. I am actually learning a lot from all your questions. Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead. Do share your valuable inputs.
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
so my input is something that is actually already dealt with, but just to just make a mention that this Varna Vibha
Hmm.
that so you have this Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So, so the three gunas that are there,
Hmm.
accordingly, they have been classified. Brahmins being Satya Brahman, and
Hmm.
Rajoguna is the smaller, and Tamoguna is even less.
Hmm.
So he mentioned that because of the then the Kshatriya is Raja Pradhan with less some amount of Sattva, and Tamas is as again as
Correct.
they have minimum amount of Tamas, and with Vaishya it is Rajo Pradhan again with
Hmm.
Tamo little less and Sattva very less, and
Correct.
the Shudras it is the Tamo Pradhan with Rajas and then even less
Hmm.
Sattva. So I mean that's why since there's the Brahmins are supposed to be the most refined, and
Correct.
anybody from anybody who is like this, irrespective of birth,
Hmm.
should be considered a Brahmin,
Correct.
and that is the way probably the Varna Vibhavi is to be understood uh, by not by birth, by their innate tendencies.
Absolutely. This is so right. Spot on.
That's the only thing. Yeah. Nice to
Something.
Yes, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yeah, ma'am was telling very nicely to actually identify.
Uh, hmm.
Ultimately, down to the fact that nobody's, it's like our character, like the way we carry ourselves, the way we live our life, that's what determines.
True, correct. Can you just speak a little louder, ma'am? Your voice is not.
See, we may be, born as a Brahmin by birth or Vaishya or Kshatriya or whatever. But what I'm like, according to, Shastra, our behavior or character or context, these are the things that determine whether we are this, that, or that.
Correct.
And nobody is superior, nobody is inferior. If you earn that superior place by the way, we carry ourselves and we lead our lives, follow the path of virtue and the legacy that has been left behind by our ancestors. Can we take it like that?
Truly, very much so, ma'am. Yes. There is no innate hierarchy, is what you're saying, and that is true. Correct.
We are all living in an illusory world, and simply imagining that just because we are this, we are superior, somebody else is inferior. It's very painful. That's what I personally do.
Yes, ma'am. Very beautiful. Correct. I also agree. Thank you. Anything else? Any other inputs? Please, it's most welcome. The only thing was time, but we all of us at least have gotten now. We have transcended time, having discussed a lot about Shiva. So we have transcended beyond 8 o'clock. Yes, Usha, ma'am, tell us.
In one of the group, like our temples are branded is based on the architecture, and they keep sharing certain Shivas also along with other God Bhagwan's darshan also. Can I share in the group?
Very much. Please feel free. You can definitely not just that, anything about Shiva, but yeah, just make sure it is about Shiva or something related to Shiva's legends, because the point of the group is only Shiva. We can also have other groups and other discussions, but predominantly it should be about Shiva. Yeah.
I share only Shiva and Parvati related. No, Shiva related, that's all.
Yeah, Parvati is also fine. I mean, it's not that we are being sectarian. We don't hate any other god, but we can definitely have other groups for that. I hope you understood that what I meant. Yeah,
We are focused.
correct. Yes, ma'am. धन्यवादः. अस्तु, धन्यवादाः. श्वः मिलामः. We will meet tomorrow. Namaste. Om Namah Shivaya.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ನಮಸ್ತೆ
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ. ಓಂ ನಮಃ ಶಿವಾಯ.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ ಸರ್
धन्यवाद.